says in Maple, so I guess it is.
Okay. Well, anyways, Jackson is a senior out of West Greene High School, and he is currently going for his Eagle Scout project. And it's a super neat project, things that I like doing, so I was very excited whenever he would volunteer, or I went and asked him, he said, hey, yeah, I'd love to give a talk, you know, I would definitely want to do that. I don't know if he said I'd love to give a talk, but, or I just pressured or guilted him into doing it. But, no, I mean, this was super excited. I was glad he could do it. And the same thing, I don't have to ask any of you guys. If any of you guys want to do a talk, please come to me and ask me for next year. I need ideas, I need volunteers, because I don't have very many Jacksons in the high school, younger guys that could talk and that are into history. So if you guys want to do something, let me know, and I'll put you on the books for next year. But Jackson, can you come up here and give your talk? Yep.
All right, thank you for having me today. Yeah, so this project was part of my Eagle Scout project that we just wrapped up about 3 weeks ago. It was our last work day. And the inspiration for it, you know, this cemetery's needed it for a long time. It's been overgrown on the edges, and a lot of the stones were in bad shape. And I learned a lot about fixing up cemeteries with going with Mr. Patton on field trips. I probably went on 5 or 6 over this past few years, field trips with him. So that's where I got the idea from. And so for my Eagle Scout project, when you do a project, you're mainly supposed to have your fellow troop help you. And I only had 4 other people in my troop, so with their schedules and everything, not a lot of them could make it most days. So the thing that saved me was everybody at our church coming to help. My pap was there every day, and then Dave and Nancy, they came a few times to help. So that's what really did it, because if I didn't have, you know, 7 or 8 people come every time, it would have been really tough to get this done. So thank you to all of them. So in case you haven't been there, Valley Chapel's off of Golden Oaks Road in Holbrook. We actually live about a minute down the road from it, and it was established in 1863. And in the cemetery, it's just right across the street from it, up on the hill a little bit. The bridge to get to it's a little bit sketchy, so I wouldn't drive your car across it. So this was back in April, I believe, before I did the project. There was a tree that was already down in the cemetery, down on the bottom right over there. And luckily it didn't hit any stones or damage anything. But that was one of the first things we did, was go and clean up that tree. And for the main part of the project, we were trying to clear out this triangle here in the bottom that was all overgrown. That was the main goal. Because there's not a stone for it, but there's somebody buried in this area over here. So we wanted to get that cleared out so we could eventually put a stone down. So my goals for the project, I had 4 main things that I wanted to complete. Clearing the overgrown brush around the outsides, and then down in that triangle. Cleaning the stones to make them easier to read, because a lot of them had a lot of black grit on them, and you could squint as much as you want, but you're never going to be able to read some of those. And then level all the crooked stones. There were a lot that were leaning or completely fell over, and a few broken ones too. And then create a map and a key for the cemetery, because we don't have one right now, or well, now we do since I made one, but before we didn't have one. So there wasn't really a good record of who all was buried there or where their stones were, especially since some of the stones are gone. You know, my pap was the only person that knows where a couple of people are buried, because there's no marker or stone there. So now that we got a map and a key, we can have that on record. So I had split this up into 3 different project days. The first day, we were just clearing brush the whole day. It was on a Saturday, and as you can see, we had a pretty good group show up. Nobody from my troop could make it, as I mentioned before, but I had a ton of people from the church show up to help. So we started with clearing out that front triangle, and we created a brush pile out front that we're going to end up burning and having a bonfire here near the end of the summer. So that should be pretty fun. There's a lot of big stuff too. We had probably 6 or 7 chainsaws going at one time. So right after we got started, it was real loud, and we got through it real quick though. We were only there for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and we had everything cleared. So it was real quick and efficient. And then one thing I forgot about was, it might be a little hard to see, but this is all old metal fence over here. And it was all around the top edge and the right side of the cemetery. And it was back in the woods a little bit, so most of it was buried. So I had to do a lot of digging and ripping out of that fence, because you could barely see some of it. And then there were 2 layers of it actually. So we tore all of that out, because there were a few pieces that were poking up out. So if you went walking in the woods back there, you might get scratched up by that a little bit, but we got a good bit of that out. So this over here, this is back in April, before we cleared anything, and that's where that tree had fell down across the edge here. And then this was after our first work day in May, where we cleared that up and then cleared along the side and that front triangle up here. And then this is that front side again with the tree, and this is after we cleared it. Now it looks, things almost look a little bit worse after, just because when I took the before photos, it was in the spring before anything had grown on the trees or any of the brush was up. So now over here, now that the leaves are on the trees, it looks a little thicker, but it's actually a lot more neater and pushed back than it was before. And then this is that top edge where that fence was. So there were 2 layers of fence. One was right below the tree line, right about here, and then there was a second layer that was maybe 5 or 6 feet higher, up towards the train tracks. There's actually tracks right up here on top of the hill behind the cemetery. So we cleared maybe halfway up to the tracks, just up to where the old fence was. And this is that front edge again, facing the church. And that's where we hauled all the brush down. And then this is an angel that we don't know who carved it, but they carved it out of an old tree that was on the left side of the cemetery. So. And then our second work day, that was in June, I believe. That's when we were cleaning the stones. So really just scrubbing them off as good as we could. And we used a chemical called D2, which I had learned about through going on field trips with Mr. Patton. We used it a good bit then. So it's specifically made for cleaning stones. So basically the process is you spray the stone, scrub it down, rinse it with water, and then spray it one more time, and then you let it sit for however long. You don't rinse it off again. But over about a week is when we went back, and it was a lot brighter than the day that we had scrubbed them before. So this stuff, it's kind of a waiting game. After you spray it on, it's going to be a while before you see results, but it really turned out good. So here's George Graham's grave. He would be my 6th great-grandfather, I believe, that fought in the Revolutionary War, and he had come over from Scotland. So he's not actually buried here, but he has a stone here. And that was one of the best transformations, I thought, was his stone. With all that black on the front, now it's almost white. It looks even better in person. This was John Knight's stone. It's one of the first ones that you'll see walking up to the cemetery. It's in that very front row, and this front view, they really turned out good too. So you had to scrape, there was a lot of moss on it too, so we scraped that off and then sprayed them down, scrubbed them. We just had regular old scrub brushes. And then you rinse it with water and you get maybe half of it off. And then after you spray it again and let it sit, that other half of the dirt and grime comes off after about a week or two. And after it gets some rainwater on it too, that'll wash some off. This was John Cheney's stone. His also came out very, very good. Before you could barely even read it. And that one's on the top right side of the cemetery, I believe. But yeah, his came out really good too. And then this pillar stone also came out good. Again, there's a lot of moss growing on the bottom. That was the case with a lot of these. But yeah, they really came out good. Now some stones, I'm just showing the best ones here. Some of them you could spray and scrub as much as you wanted and there would still be some dirt and grime that you just couldn't get off. But for the majority of them, it really worked well, and you can read almost all of them now. There's a few that you can't read just because the stone itself is worn away, but everything that we cleaned turned out really good. And then on our third day, this was actually just, I think 3 weeks ago, I believe, was our last day. That's when we focused on leveling the stones. There were a lot that a couple that had fallen over, and then a lot that were leaning really bad. And this was probably the hardest day, just because this old cemetery, it's not set up even at all. The stones are just mixed, matched, and placed wherever. Now there's a few rough rows, but outside of that, they're just wherever. And then they're faced sideways on the hill, and then the hill itself doesn't go straight up. It's all bumpy, so it was really hard to level out some of these. So we leveled a total of 17 out of 80. There were 80 stones, 78 stones overall, 80 graves at the cemetery. And we leveled out 17 of them that were really bad. So we used shovels, dig bars, and then our muscles to get most of it. And some of these were really heavy. Some of these, the pillar stones, they were a real difficulty trying to set up. Because even just, now they break up into sections and they just sit on top of each other. But even one of them, you have to have at least 3 people to lift them. And then we also recorded the information from the stones on this day. So that's the information that we used to create the map key and just the basic information about each person. So we got all that down to put on the map key later. Yeah, a lot of these, they were as crooked as ever, and we just had to take them completely out to level that ground underneath. You really couldn't just lean a lot of them over. You had to set them out of there completely to get in there and level it good, because you had to pack the dirt down after we moved it too, or else it'd sit the same as it did before. So yeah, same thing here, just leveling out the stones. And then this is actually Nancy over here recording some of the information. She was a big help with that. Her and my mom went around and they each did half of the cemetery. So my mom did the top half, she did the bottom half. And I'm sure that was a really tough job because a lot of those were still hard to read. You got all this little writing on there, and then some of it's in cursive, and then it's all worn away, so it's really tough to read. But they did a really good job at getting as much as they could out of that. This was probably the best. This is my favorite transformation. This is how it was sitting when we found it, and you can't really see the name on it, just from it's been sitting flat like this, so the rains hit it dead on. But we did get it to set up and look real nice. Now there wasn't any spots for, usually there's a metal pole that you can stick in between each piece of these to hold it together, but this one didn't come with any, so like there weren't any holes in it already, so we just set it up and leveled it as best as we could, but it turned out pretty good. These were a couple at the top. We reset both of these. There was one row at the top that they were all just completely crooked, so we did probably 7 or 8 in that one row that we completely took out and leveled again. And this stone was the hardest by far to do, because so you had to take each piece out. So you had to take this top part out and the middle part and then the bottom and set them all separate and then put it back in. And I think they tried, I wasn't in the group that was doing this one, but there were the 3 of them that were working on this stone. And they had to put that bottom piece back in maybe 5 or 6 times to check if it was level and take it back out. And it took all 3 of them just to move that every time. So that one was not easy to work with. And then it took 4 of us to lift this back up on top of there. And this was one of the last ones, another pillar stone. Now these were all connected on this one, so that made it a little bit easier. And then here's the map that I ended up making for the cemetery. So I just drew it by hand, each stone, and then numbered them so that I have a corresponding number in the key to give the information on each stone. So there's 78 stones in the cemetery, and then the 2 missing markers, that's 79 and 80 over here, so there's nothing there. But that's where we know somebody's buried, and we're working on getting markers there. Because our church actually has an account just for the cemetery, so we're going to work on trying to buy some stones to set there, or at least some markers, so that we know where they are. And there were 9 veterans buried there, ranging from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, Spanish-American War, World War I, and Korea. So there was a lot of representation throughout. And then the oldest death date, I don't know if it's the oldest stone, but the oldest death date at least was 1861, so a couple years before the church was established. So I'm not sure exactly how they set that up, because there wasn't any others until maybe 5 years later, I think was the next one. So that was a little bit interesting. And then to make the map, a lot of these pictures that you've already seen, they came from a drone that I have that I took the pictures of from up above so that I could get a better viewpoint, especially for this, for making the map. So I basically just copied it exactly as I saw it on the ground. And then I don't know if you can tell, there's a little white circle here. I had to go out and set bucket lids next to some of the small stones because I couldn't see them from that high up. So I just got random bucket lids out of the barn. It still didn't help much, but like these 4 right here, these are all bucket lids. There's one here, one over here. So yeah, it turned out pretty well. And then this is the key for it. There's 4 different pages, and I kind of wrote most of it out as it said it on the stone. So the older ones, it would say the person's name, when they died, and then exactly how old they are, usually down to the day. And I thought that was pretty unique, so I wanted to keep that. So these first few that are older, that's how they're set up. It says when they died, and then, age 35 years and 4 days, 9 years and 17 days. And then the newer ones that are set up like how we see them today, that's how I put those ones in there. So it's not uniform, but I tried to make it make sense as much as I could. I just thought it'd be a little neater to have it as it was written on the stones. So these ones will have October 3rd, 1820 to March 20th, 1912. So, about how the modern stones are made. So yeah, there's 4 pages of this, and some of these Some of the stones that I can't read, like 44 here, I just had to put unknown because it was either broken beyond repair or you just couldn't read it because it was the stone was shaved down so much from weathering. So some of these I just don't have any idea what the name could be. I even tried, holding a piece of paper on it and getting a pencil and writing over it, and it still doesn't work. But we got the majority of them. And some of them you could only make out a last name or a first name, so whatever it was, that's what I put down there. And that's about it. That's our brush pile again. We're hopefully going to burn here pretty soon, but it was pretty big. And this is probably the biggest transformation throughout the whole project, just because you couldn't see through this at all before this front area. And we only left a few trees and it's all cleared out good now. So, thank you for listening to my presentation. Does anybody have any questions about it?
I have a few. It can be to anybody. Is that the original church? Or was the church built on that side of the road?
That's the original church building. It wasn't the original place where the church first met. It first met in 1852 in a schoolhouse that was about a 3/4 mile up the road.
Okay.
Then they built the church in 1863.
And did the railroad affect it at all? Did the railroad affect the cemetery at all?
No.
No. And are there spots open or is it closed?
Well, that's a unique thing. This cemetery is not owned by the church. The church just sort of assumed responsibility. It's a community cemetery. So we've had people buried there as recently as 3 years ago. But we don't sell the lots, just whoever wants to bury someone there, they can bury them.
Okay.
That's why there's no record of who's there.
Right.
And the railroad, you really don't even notice that it's up there unless you walk all the way to the top.
Does the train still come through?
No,
Not now.
not anymore. Probably, would you say like 6 or 7 years ago it stopped coming through? It used to be through all the time.
Probably been longer than
Yeah.
for a simple reason.
When they closed Blacksville Mine is when it quit running.
Blacksville too. Now, they closed the Blacksville one in 1990. And I'm gonna say 2000 to 2005 is when they closed the eastern line.
I think one thing of interest here, the last meeting, Glenn Toothman gave a presentation on the Rain Day Boys. On the upper left-hand side of the cemetery, one of the Rain Day Boys is buried there, Edward Greenwich. Of course, he was killed in France on Rain Day in 1918, but he was brought back to Valley Chapel Cemetery and buried. And Glenn wanted me to tell everyone that he was sorry he couldn't be here tonight. He had surgery on his eye and he's having problems with it, so he couldn't be here.
Where is your grandfather buried at?
So he's,
Do they know?
Yes. Under the housing project on Liberty Avenue up from
Behind
McCracken.
McCracken. Okay, so he's underneath there. Okay.
So they didn't move his body up to Greenmount like they did?
Well, they couldn't find
They
it.
couldn't find
They
it.
couldn't find it when they moved it.
Yeah.
But his name's on the stone up there.
Is his name out there?
No,
No?
they couldn't find him to move him. so.
Oh, okay.
That's why, I don't know whether any of you remember Bill Garner. He was a member here.
Mhm.
Bill and I got this stone and put it up there,
Oh, okay. Okay.
just so it wouldn't be forgotten.
Right.
And he was also one of the two carpenters that built this building. George Graham and George Seals built this building.
Jackson, was the fence in the back of the cemetery like a cemetery fence, or was it like just a regular,
It's woven wire.
just woven wire?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure why there was two. There was two sets at the top at least.
Yeah.
When the
Yeah.
railroad had that built, that fence?
Yeah.
No, the farmers did,
Okay.
because they used to run, before the railroad went in, there was livestock running in there. And so that was fenced in all the way around.
Okay.
So who owns the property now where the cemetery is if the church does not?
The community, there's no recorded deed on it. I've tried to find one, there's no recorded deed.
Does it go back to a farmer or an original patent? And
Well,
In the beginning,
originally it
anyone
was
know?
the Fry property and then the Bosworth property.
So nobody's paying property tax on the cemetery?
I didn't-
Is there a property tax paid on the cemetery?
Well, Sheriff Vernon's the only one old enough that would know, so I.
It was paid in full. Hey, question. Where did you get that, D2 for that cleaner?
I think Atlas Preservation was the name of the site.
Yeah, Atlas Preservation, yeah, you can buy it through different sites, but they're the most affordable, and that's what they're a masonry, company, but they do a lot of, headstone, there's like a big community of people that just like to clean stones, and it's become like a neat thing, and, I think they sell a lot of, different kind of mortars and glues and cleaning products and, for headstones. It's a great stuff, it's made so that it does not hurt the stone, you're not putting bleach or Clorox on it, you know, you're not power washing, it lets the sun do all the work. You scrub a little bit, I mean soap and water will do the same, but it's supposed to be nice and healthy for the stones, it's not supposed to crack it, but that's its purpose, to clean headstones.
But you don't get, there's no place around the store, you have to order it online.
Yeah, so I looked, so Walmart said that they had it on their website when I looked, but when I went there and asked them, they said that they don't have it in stores at least. So I'm not sure if you can, I think it's mostly just an online thing. I know that Atlas Preservation, I looked and they have an actual store, but it's a few hours away in Ohio, I think. So the main way to get it's online. There's not many places that carry it at all.
Is that the name of it, D2?
D2, if you type in D2 cleaning, but that's what it's.
But anyone can buy it? You don't need
Yeah, no.
special
No.
arrangements or
No,
permissions?
it's so clean, you could buy a 50-gallon drum of it if you wanted to. But most of them come in like little gallon jugs, I think that's what you can buy.
Yeah.
And I said, whenever he went to buy it off of Walmart, it was like a lot more than what, it was like an extremely high price compared to if you just go to this, or if you just search D2 cleaning solution.
I'm on a cemetery board down in George Floyd.
Oh, it's a great look.
We have a lot of stones down there black, you know,
Yeah.
they need that clean.
Now you still gotta do like at the first time you still elbow grease, you know, you still scrub it, but like he said, over time it's cool. You watch it just as the days go by, and it might rain, it just eats away at the grind.
Yeah, and it's pretty safe. I mean, it does say to wash your hands and don't get it in your eyes or anything, but I've never had a problem with it. I've got it on my hands a bunch and nothing's ever happened, so it's pretty
Yeah.
safe to use. But
Jackson, those three-piece monuments,
yeah.
they're not attached, most of them in any way? They just
So
they just sit on each other?
Yeah, so the two that we fixed, they were just sitting on each other. And the one had a little bit of a nub where you could see that a metal rod used to be, but it wasn't enough to put anything back in it. It was just so worn away, the edges of it, so it kind of flattened out a little bit. But and then, like I said, the one that we were dealing with, it was completely attached. So when you would move it, the whole thing would move together. So, but yeah, we just had to level it as best we could and then just set them straight on top of each
Well,
other.
it's amazing on some of those tall ones that they will, stay upright. I guess they're heavy enough that is there kind of a groove that the one sits in on top of the base?
Not
Not really?
it's pretty much just flat. Now, with Mr. Patton before, we've used this, I forget what it's called, it's like a putty that,
A boxer.
Yeah,
let's see, what was it called?
I can't.
It was a putty, one
Yeah,
box.
like you, it's meant, again,
Yeah, it's like a putty that you stick down around the edges. Now we didn't have any, but I was planning to go back sometime we can just lift up the edge and scoot up underneath there, because it turns like rock solid after, over time, so.
So do you figure you'll have to keep an eye on things on a regular basis to make sure your
'cause-
work is not undone?
Yeah, especially with the stone leveling, because, if they shifted that far already, I'm sure they could do it again, especially since we loosened all the dirt up. Now, we packed it down pretty good, and we put it back. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on it, and then I have went back and weed whacked where we cut all that brush out. So I'll need to do that again, but I did get back and do that so that it doesn't go back to what it was. And hopefully eventually it'll turn to grass and we can just mow over it instead.
do you guys, are you in charge of mowing it? Or?
No, somebody else that lives
You have
closer
someone
is.
to do that, or?
Yeah, but I just weed whacked the stuff that we cut out.
Make your dad do it. Make your dad do it.
That's a good idea. Yep.
Is there any record of who used to maintain the cemetery?
No, but so my pap had said that when you came back from the army was when it was really overgrown. So there was a period there where it hadn't been taken care of at all. And he said some of the grass was taller than the stems, like you couldn't see most of them. So there was a long time where it wasn't maintained, and then he and was it Uncle Roger that went up and cleared all that out and got it back to what it was or what it is now. So, yep.
It was overgrown with briars and saplings.
Growing up, was it nicer though, or was it just whenever
What's it?
you were first growing up, do you remember it looking nice then, or it was always kind of rough until you guys cleaned it?
It wasn't as rough as it was when we went in and cleaned it
Yeah.
up. Because I've been gone a few years.
But it never looked as nice as what it does.
No.
Yeah, he's been keeping it up really good now. Chris Fry's the one that mows it now, and he keeps it up good and weed whacks it good. So, yeah, hopefully we can get that down to grass for him now, wherever we cut stuff out. But, yep. Are there any other questions?
I was just wondering, was there any cross-reference to Hennon records, right? of the
Well,
cemetery?
yeah, we have the Hennon records.
No, I'm saying was that cross-reference to make sure it was complete. And I'm obsessed with find a grave, and I still find a grave. You may want to cross-reference some of that to get some more information.
Well, we got copies. Jackson did let me make some copies for our files, so we could, come on in someday, John. and
No,
we could-
I was saying for his project, further enhance, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, whatever's on here is just the stuff that was on the stems. So,
Yes.
yeah, I didn't get anything from an outside source. Mainly because there was like one or two names that I looked up, and there'd be like 5 of them, and 2 of them lived in the area that had the exact same name. So I didn't want to get that far into it and mess something up by trying to add some more information. But yeah. Any other
One thing,
questions?
is that all people, did you maybe miss any? Or is that pretty much, did you go around with a rod and stick in the ground, see if you can find stones?
No, we didn't do that. No, there were a bunch that were broken that we
Okay, but you just,
accounted for, but we don't have the names. So every place that we know of is accounted for, but not every name or person is. But no, we didn't.
so there's 80 people only buried in that cemetery then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Probably more than that because they've been not marked and stuff, and they might have been green burials.
Yeah, there were 80 markers at least, but there's a lot where it's a husband and wife, or some where there's a few kids
Right.
buried with them too. So, yep. Yep,
Do you know how many Revolutionary War vets you have buried in that cemetery?
just the one in this cemetery.
How many?
Just the one.
Just one?
Yeah, in this
Has the
cemetery.
SAR marked their grave in behalf of the 250th celebrations coming up next year? They will do that, at no charge to you. And they'll also mark the cemetery with a plaque with a QR code indicating where this veteran served and what his record was.
It has a QR, it has a memory medallion on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they'll also put if you want it, a granite marker there from the SAR chapter. And at the entrance or exit to the cemetery, they'll put a plaque up.
Okay. I didn't know about that. Now he has a flag marker.
Okay, yeah, they'll do this in addition to that.
Okay.
At no cost to you on behalf of your local SAR chapter, which I'm not a member of, so I'm glad to promote it.
Alrighty.
Well, why are you volunteering?
I'm taking care of the ones in Ohio.
Thank you, Jackson. That was very good.